So I'm off to the park to do a little light workout. I got my judo resistance bands. I think they call them uchigami. And we're gonna have a little bit of fun. And I'll just presume no one's gonna join me this morning, but it's a beautiful day in Summerlin, Nevada. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And I will presume that most of you are asleep, because that's the typical way it goes for most people after New Year's, hungover or whatever. But I try to use this time as a period to reinforce all the discipline in my body from my youth, from being a business owner, being a Marine, having a background in judo, Japanese style martial arts, samurai spirit, all that, to try to come back. Hey, Race Gas, good seeing you, man. Right on, Race Gas. Well, I think you've got a military background, if I'm not mistaken, and if not, you definitely part of Team MPE. Yeah, you're not the normal. Right on, yeah. Well, neither am I. And you can't be normal if you want to be successful. You have to be right on, strung out, hungover, dope sick, whole nine. Yeah, most people are, not me. I'm dehydrated, but not from alcohol. Just not having my wife around and looking after my daughter is really rough, man. So I haven't been putting in the hours that I need to make a living, you know, because, hey, you can only be a dad once. Once they're old, they're going to remember whether or not their dad sacrificed for them. But I digress. So I started a little late in the day, but I got my judo resistance bands. I think they're called uchigomis. So I'm going to do some judo resistance band training over at the park. And I thought about what was going on with Judge Ball and with Reluctant Prophet. I think his name's Mark, if I'm not mistaken. The guy out in Arizona, where Judge Ball, I guess he had Lane Myers removed from court under the guise of contempt of court. And based on what I'm hearing, in Arizona, there's a separate contempt still there. I guess in Arizona, there's a separate contempt proceeding that has to be held. Give me some 5x5s that you guys still see me, because I lost you for about 5 minutes. So when a judge wants to find you in contempt, which I could see, honestly, like if I was in California, why you'd want to find a guy like Lane in contempt, because he constantly cuts you off, including the judge. Thanks, what's the matter, you? He constantly cuts off the judge, he cusses, he swears. So I could see how that could make any judge just infuriated, right? Because like police, judges have to take control. It's part of the shtick, you know. You got to be in control. You have to have proper courtroom decorum, all that stuff. So I was thinking, well, on my way to the park, I should probably cover this, because what happened is Myers got removed from the courtroom, and he ended up going to jail for 30 hours based upon statements that I've heard. So 30 hours in jail. And in Arizona, and again, I'm only licensed to practice law in Texas and California, but it looks like in Arizona there has to be a separate contempt proceeding. So basically, he should be the person, the defendant, the accused, the party accused of contempt would have to be basically given like a summons, I guess, and a separate contempt proceeding would have to be held, and by another judge. And I guess that assures impartiality, because otherwise a hanging judge could just have anybody thrown in jail at any time, right? And I think that was supposed to act as a bulwark or a safeguard to prevent people from getting falsely imprisoned. And so Judge Ball said, well, it's not my fault that the courtroom, by the way, apparently Myers' family wasn't allowed to attend the hearing by Zoom, and anybody who was potentially sympathetic to Myers was removed from the courtroom. But all these local law enforcement officers, apparently, allegedly, who hate Lane Myers. By the way, it's early, so if I call them Judge Myers, strike that. My brain's not totally turned on yet. Beautiful day, by the way. Check out this beautiful view. Hold on, hopefully you can see it. Look at that. Drop dead gorgeous. Whoa. So, and I'm hoping nobody's going to show up, because normally I come out when it's super dark so I can talk to you without being interfered with, because it looks kind of weird, some dude talking into his phone holding it up really high like this. Don't want any trouble, you know what I mean? If I think I'm trying to spy on their houses or... Only 10 people, gosh, I have at least 50 to 100 by now. So, here's the deal. So, apparently the courtroom was filled up with all these people, like law enforcement officers and people who can't stand Lane. So that's kind of what I was trying to talk to you guys about. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You know, like cops and just people who really just don't like Lane. And so obviously, if from the outside looking in, that's obviously to agree. Like if a judge kicks out that doesn't like you, kicks out all your family, makes sure that no one's sympathetic to you or other public can be in there, and then has all these cops show up, you know, with guns and everything, many of whom you've had run-ins with, who hate you and want you locked up, would you or would you not consider that to be intimidation tactic? Shout out to Christy for her uncle dying. Rest in peace. God bless your uncle, Christy. I'm sorry to hear that. Christy, hold on. Build S. By the way, I'm moving and I don't have my Grimmel or whatever it's called with me, so it's kind of bouncing around, but yeah, sorry for your loss, ma'am. It's never good to lose somebody you care about. So, looking at all these chemtrails up here in the sky. By the way, have you guys heard about all the aluminum that we have all over the place now as a result of these chemtrails that have never occurred, that allegedly can be turned on and activated by, I guess, some kind of radio wave that can activate them and spread them, and allegedly that's supposed to send the sun back outside the atmosphere. These crazy psychopaths at the World Economic Forum and King Charles are all about that. Oh, carbon, it's the enemy. You know, carbon, in other words, human life forms, carbon, right out of like the satanic Bible, right? Because carbon is human. And they're saying carbon is the enemy. Anyways, I don't want to get into it, but obviously these people hate humans. So anyways, let's get back into, yes, our prayers are with you. Dr. Donna, good seeing you, ma'am. Yeah, he is a vampire race gas. Total disgrace. Give me a bunch of ones if you think the whole concept of a king is satanic and evil. That one man has the right to rule over another to such a degree that he controls every aspect of their lives. Okay, so, anyways, the idea is that, so Lane got locked up for, I guess, 30 hours, which is wild to me. 30 hours. And then he finally gets out because apparently there was no legal basis to hold him. And then when Reluctant Prophet got sued by Judge Myers, I keep saying Judge Myers, by Judge Ball, Judge Alexander Ball, when he got sued by the judge for defamation and for a restraining order, and of course Judge Ball threw out the case, which I think I know why, but we'll get into that at another time. By the way, it's freezing out here. And unfortunately, I do see people showing up, which sucks, but whatever. Anyways, so when this all happened, and by the way, for all you people who think you know stuff, but you really don't, Reluctant Prophet was able to convince the trial court, the real judge, to throw out at least the restraining order with prejudice, which means it can't be brought again, at least not on the same basis. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know about the actual defamation case. I've got to find out. I've got to do some more research. But the bottom line is that Lane Myers, and I've got this on video in my last video that I did, it's pretty cool, where Lane is following this judge who's allegedly in fear for his life with no bodyguard down the street, chastising him, going, you know, what are you doing falsely arresting me? Of course that's kidnapping, basically. And by the way, you didn't abide by any of the proper courtroom etiquette or procedures to have me arrested and removed from the court. And the judge is saying, well, I'm not responsible for anything that happened to you after the courtroom staff took you out. I have no idea what happened. It's not my fault. I have zero responsibility for that. Good morning, Jody. Which I think is completely absurd. I mean, being a Marine, you're responsible for the actions of your juniors. Hold on. We're here at the park now. Just want to get squared away. All right. So while I do some stretching here, so I brought this little thing as a makeshift stand too, so I can move my thing around, but maybe I won't need it. Maybe I can just use this pull. Now it's freezing, so I can't get the full stretch that I normally would. All right, so what I'm thinking is, okay, I think that the judge, if he was anyone else, would be liable under the doctrine of vicarious liability. It's a common law doctrine or principle that a master is liable for the actions of his servants, right? But we have these issues about judicial immunity, right? So judges are absolutely immune. It's not like qualified immunity for actions that they conduct in their official capacities. So if a judge does something in their official capacity, unless it's totally like above the pale, like a malicious act or grossly outside the course and scope of their judgeship, they're absolutely immune. So imagine the damage a judge could do to someone because of that power that they have. And so this is something that guys like Thomas Jefferson were afraid of, and Federalists like Hamilton were also afraid of at one point. But the new version of the Federalist would be like the Democrat, who believe that the government should have control over every aspect of your life, unless for political expediency they shouldn't. And then they can use the news media to say that my body, my choice only applies in this case, but not in another case, force you to take some kind of an injection or something. So that's sort of the issue, the power of a judge, the power of the state. When should they and when shouldn't they have control over you? So let me get warmed up with, and we're going to get back into the whole judge thing in a minute. Let me get a little workout in for you guys. Here's a little judo foot sweep. I forgot the Japanese name. Great exercise. And then these are good ones too, because it's good for your back, but it also helps you use your hips, because part of judo is the throw. And so, you know, I can throw you using my hips, right? And you want to warm up your knees. All right. I used to do Muay Thai when I was like 15, 16, but my knees and everything are just wiped out now. All right, so I got these I think it's called uchigami. They're called bungees, right? So you can see, like, this one represents the sleeve of a gi or someone's jacket, and this one would represent the lapel, see, or a gi, right? So I haven't done these for years. It's been years. So let's take a look. Let's see if I still got it. I'll try to give you guys a good view here. Hold on. All right, so can you believe that? I'm already tired from that. But anyways, that's a resistance band. I'm not totally warmed up either, guys, so just bear with me. I'll try to do a couple more, and then we'll do some regular resistance training as well, okay? Did not kick my ass. So the idea behind judo is you want to get kazushi or kazushi. So you want to be able to throw. You want to be able to throw your opponent off balance, and You know, I'm not a judoka anymore like I was, guys. I have a lot of injuries, but thanks, Reluctant Prophet. Good seeing you, brother. You want to apply, Reluctant Prophet, I'm glad you're here. You want to apply kazoosh to the practice of law, even if you're not a lawyer. You want to throw your opponent off balance. And it's something I see the Lane Myers is really good at. He knows how to throw. He gets kazushi in the court. Very impressed with this guy. People think that he's a narcissist, that he's crazy. I don't give a shit, man. He's effective. In martial arts, read about Musashi if you want to learn about effective. All right, so let's see here, guys. Can you believe I'm so far out of shape? It's terrible. All right, remember, your lats are your second largest muscle group. So if you want to burn fat while you sleep, always do resistance training. You guys who think running's where it's at, no, it's not. You're gonna destroy your knees, and all it does is burn muscle. And also, it only speeds up your metabolism for about 72 hours. So it's not really burning a whole lot of fat. You want to keep the fat down, obviously do a carnivore diet or paleo, but besides that, you want to build muscle. Muscle is the key to everything. And also, for you guys who are on computers, it'll put your upper rhomboids and traps back into place. So we'll focus on our lats now. Oh, fuck me. Oh. Oh. So, close grip. That was 6, so that's Marine Corps. I think when I was in, it was 20 with a kip. Then when I got out, I heard it was 6 with no kip. So I just did close grip, 6, no kip. And one of the residual effects of your freaking pull up like that is you definitely get an ab workout too. Like, I don't know if you saw me stretching backwards, but my abs are on fire right now. Screen record this one for insurance. Oh, that's funny. So, and again, all the information and advice that I give you about law is not really advice, okay? I'm only licensed to practice law in Texas and California. So, you know, I teach law as a professor. I became a lawyer on the law study program. So I became a lawyer with no undergrad or law degree, and I'm allowed to teach 2 people a year on the law study program how to become lawyers, similar to how Kim Kardashian's doing it. Actually, same program. So I'm just giving you the typical information you would get from a Barbary course that also taught natural law, as opposed to just black letter, whatever the government wants you to know law. Okay, so now that my lats are a little cooled down, we're gonna do my version of a bent over row, but from a vertical position prone. So let's check it out. Oh, man, I would do more, but I got to work today, believe it or not, guys. Let me, but I'll talk to you on the way back. Actually, I brought some notes too. It's looking pretty good. We got almost 200 people in here. Not bad for freaking 0630, guys, or whatever. By the way, I don't make endorsements usually, but like these are my Uki bands. I can't even read the name right now, but it looks like it's Super BJJ. And for all of you guys who don't know, so BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, was brought to Brazil by a guy who actually was a judoka. He wasn't Japanese jiu-jitsu. He was a judoka, and he studied under the founder of judo. And he went to Brazil and he taught the Gracies judo. And one of the components of judo is newaza, which is ground fighting. And you just saw me doing like a reverse exercise where I was going from side to side. That's one of the exercises we do to try and throw our opponent off the top of us. So the Gracies got basically really good at the newaza part, but BJJ sort of almost abandoned the throwing part. And I learned traditional judo from Nori Bunasawa when I was a little kid, and he's still around. He's like 70. I think he's a 6 dan, red belt or whatever now. And I'll get to your questions in a minute. So anyways, those judo bands, I'll start doing that at the park for you guys. Make sure to give me a bunch of thumbs up and double tap the screen. So hopefully reluctant profits here. But typically, before I get into my walk back to the house, suing a judge is generally really hard to do because of the concept of judicial immunity, which we just discussed. And judges are typically going to be immune, even if their actions were erroneous or malicious. Can you believe that crap? Wow. It's like right out of the Dukes of Hazzard, right, guys? So this principle is alleged to allow judges to make decisions without the fear of personal or legal repercussions. So, well, look at the case against Trump, where you had all these politically appointed Soros prosecutors bring all these criminal charges against him, right? And the judges, turns out, are all hardcore Democrats. One of them, their daughter, made millions of dollars from collecting donations and fundraising from campaign donors based on the fact that her father was getting criminal felony convictions against Donald Trump. This is an example of why I have a problem with political persecutions, because what just happened is now the Democrat Party has opened the door with their bought and paid for, allegedly, judges, right, and prosecutors, Soros-funded prosecutors, for the Republicans to do the same thing. So they basically sparked off a war. And this is why I've never been in favor of the concept of qualified or any kind of immunity for public officials. If anything, to me, it should be a capital offense for a public official to violate the rights of a common American person. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. It should be a capital offense for a public official to violate your God-granted sovereign rights. Okay, so just so you know, I'm a libertarian. I don't really support either party. I think they're both extremely corrupt. And in fact, the way I make money off the stock market is to make sure to buy the same stocks that Nancy Pelosi buys, because I know it's always going to win me money. All right, so the next issue. There are some exceptions to immunity. A judge can be sued if they act outside their judicial authority or in complete absence of jurisdiction. For instance, if a judge engages in non-judicial acts, such as making false statements outside the courtroom. Okay, that's important. But we're going to get into something that might be an exception for Lane and reluctant prophet, maybe. So acting outside the judicial duties, like making a derogatory comment about a party outside the court, could be an issue. Or in Trump's case, where the daughter of a judge, who could potentially be this judge's servant, right, raising money based on getting, and he's a big donor to the Democrat Party. I mean, think about it. that could be a case as well that could be coming sooner than you think. And acts of gross misconduct or discrimination, that would not be part of the judicial function. So if Lane Myers, is more about Lane, can argue that it was gross misconduct for the judge to do what he did, and he did it because he had him falsely arrested or allegedly kidnapped because he just didn't like Lane, because Lane is not a statist who believes that the government is, he's, you know, one of these so-called sovereigns or whatever that most of the modern bench hates, then he might be able to argue gross misconduct or some kind of discrimination. Discrimination maybe because he's white, maybe because he's a Trump supporter, and it looks like Judge Ball is probably a typical Oregonian, right? A typical leftist. So he could try to argue that it's political discrimination, maybe. Now, false arrest by a judge. If a judge issues an arrest warrant without proper authority or due process, that could potentially fall outside his judicial function. So if he maliciously issued an arrest warrant, in this case, had Myers placed under a custodial arrest, which is what my argument would be, then he might be able to have some kind of an action, especially if it was based on an action outside of probable cause. Now, the problem is proving that kind of conduct is very difficult, and he'd have to demonstrate that the judge was not acting in any judicial capacity at all. And obviously, since he's on the bench in his black robe, he's probably acting within some kind of judicial capacity, right, guys? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. By the way, guys, I appreciate you guys. I don't really care so much about the super chats and raising money, but it means a lot to me when you guys buy memberships, because I have a lot of stuff that I share in the back channel for other people that I don't share publicly. So when you buy a membership, like a 5 or a 6-pack for other people, what happens is that YouTube will send those memberships for like a month or whatever to other new people. And that enables me to share my insider information from the back channel. And I think I only charge like $1.99 or something a month. So anybody who can find it within their heart to donate memberships like Brett Ray does, that's very helpful to my channel, because it helps me teach people. And my passion is teaching people about their rights, because it's a gift that God gave me. So I want you guys to understand. So that's my little intermission. All right. Now, legal process. To sue a judge for actions, you would typically have to obviously talk to a lawyer. I would recommend that Lane have a lawyer represent him if he's going to sue the judge, at least in a case like this. As well as reluctant prophet. Reluctant prophet could actually try and argue that this defamation lawsuit was obviously done, well, it was done on the judge's personal capacity. And if the judge wants to argue that it wasn't, well, then clearly it's outside the scope of judicial process. So either way, I think that reluctant prophet probably has a case for some kind of a civil malicious prosecution if he was in California or Texas. I'm not sure how it is in Arizona. Now, if the case is strong enough, he could proceed with a lawsuit in federal court if it was a civil rights violation. Now, the challenges are going to be the burden of proof is going to lie with Lane or reluctant prophet to show that the judge acted without jurisdiction or in a manner so egregious it fell outside their judicial role. And judges can still have immunity even for wrong decisions if they were within their judicial authority. So the way my approach would be is I would want to make a claim with local the judicial commission. Hold on, guys. Let me get squared away really quick. Well, there you go. You got to see my Uki bands. So I would make a claim with the local judicial commission first, because if Lane or reluctant prophet could get a finding that the claim that the actions that Judge Ball took fell outside his judicial authority, like arresting someone for contempt and then having your courtroom staff haul them off to jail for 30 hours. I mean, to me, I think that falls outside your scope of judicial authority. And then to try and blame it on the courtroom staff and the marshals and the bailiffs, well, to me, that fails the leadership test. I mean, being a Marine, freaking captain doesn't blame his sergeant, right? You just don't do that. So if I was his courtroom staff, I would be quitting en masse because he's trying to set them up, in my opinion. Like if I was one of the litigants, I'd be like, or if I was one of those bailiffs or cops, I'd be like, this freaking lefty college boy is trying to throw me under the bus. Wow. I'd be like, I'm out of here. Freaking university grad loser. That's what I'd be thinking, right? So you could probably get a finding from the Commission on Judicial Performance or the reasonable facsimile thereof in Arizona that Judge Ball was acting outside of his judicial authority, well, then Lane and Reluctant Prophet would be in a really strong position to have a winning lawsuit. And in Lane's case, it would be for false imprisonment, among other things. I mean, obviously there's First Amendment issues as well, but it's mainly due process. So in Lane's case, yes, it's true that he cusses and swears and he cuts off the judge, which likely could have been, if I was a judge, I'd find him in contempt for sure if I gave him warnings. And I would probably have prevailed on that. The problem is that Lane was never held over for his hearing, his due process to be able to find out from an impartial judge whether or not that is true. And my experience has been from being pro se when I was younger is what these judges, because they're products of the state. I mean, who signs their check, right? Either the state or the county, I guess. So they want to get a lawyer for you who will follow their way that they want it done. And typically that's trying to get a plea bargain, because if they get a plea bargain, they get a conviction. And now they have the ability to have priors so they can get to sentence enhancement against you for your next conviction. So it's a very slippery slope and a very scary thing. When I see guys like Reluctant Prophet and Lane, you got to be a little crazy, to be honest, to do what they're doing. But I found that after almost getting my teeth kicked in by a cop, that it was better for me to become a lawyer, learn their rules, and be able to be effective so I can help people like you who want to listen. So, because not all of us are the same. But let me look at the comments here. Hey, wow, make sure to double tap that screen, guys, and make sure to buy memberships for your friends. Oh, it's $5 a month? Okay. I didn't know. I thought it was like $1.99. Sorry. So Mias Taro says, you teach me quite a bit, and I do appreciate that. Well, I learn a lot from you guys, too. Look, I've been proven wrong, and I'm a lawyer. Like, I was swearing up and down, there's no way that Lane can be recording in court without permission. And I found out later that no, in Arizona, they have a special rule called 122H. Now, AJ says lawyers don't take cases against judge because it nearly ends their career. Well, that's a valid statement, except for this. If there's enough public outcry, that judge will become a pariah. Remember those two Pennsylvania judges that were selling children to their friend at the private prison, getting false convictions against them and stealing kids from their moms? Mainly single moms and black mothers, couldn't afford lawyers. He was stealing their kids, and they ended up getting in trouble. The whole judiciary turned their backs on them. So remember, Sleepy Joe just gave one of those judges clemency, private prisons, prison industrial complex. Remember Sleepy Joe, the guy who wanted to make sure that, what did he call black people? Super predators? For some reason, they all voted for him. Never. So anyways, the idea is you could create a situation. There's a lot of judges are elected officials. So if there's enough public outcry, judges are political animals. They're going to rebel and turn on that guy. So you're right, just suing a judge without more. But if it's a public outcry, you're in a really strong position to win that case. Now, I have many friends who are retired judges, and I've discussed this matter confidentially. And my feeling that I'm getting is the best choice that Ball could make at this point would be to resign. I don't think he has much of a choice at this point. I think he has to leave the bench, at least for a couple of years, get some experience in private practice, hope that it blows over, maybe get involved in some community volunteer work, maybe get involved in like the appellate project, helping people who are wrongfully convicted, getting out of jail, and then maybe consider getting back on the bench. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree that he has an opportunity to redeem himself by getting engaged in the community, volunteerism, things like that. But as it stands now, after this arrest of Myers and the excuse making, trying to blame it on your staff, I just don't think this dog's gonna hunt. What do you guys think? Let me see. What do you guys think? Mias, I'll have to do some additional research about Bivens in particular, but what I've just shared with you, excuse me, a few seconds ago, and I'm gonna get dropped a couple of times as I go through this little drop zone, is the way that you would do it. You need to be able to show that the judge was acting grossly and maliciously to the point that he was acting outside the scope and course of his judicial capacity. And that's the way that you would be able to bring a case. You would be able to bring a case against a judge. James Forbes says it right. He should work at a soup kitchen. And I agree. I think that working at a soup kitchen, look, the guy, he's a young kid. And I guess he clerked for a couple of judges for like 6 years and decided that he was called to be a judge. But look, I didn't become an attorney till I was like in my 30s. And being a pro se guy and having had several businesses, the reason I became such a successful lawyer is because I know how to deal with regular people. And I mean, honestly, that's how I became so good at it, because I know what you're going through. But somebody who's lived in daddy's basement and spent their time at a Marxist-run political re-education camp like Georgetown or Harvard, they don't know what real Americans are going through or suffering. They're the elite. They're the Obama class. So they don't know, or the Bush class. Thank you, Roger. Roger just bought 5 memberships and that's what I'd like to see. Again, I like the super chats because it makes my wife happy because, she's a woman, so she sees money and she's like, oh, cool. Because, we homeschool our kids and it's not cheap. And she's not able to have a regular job because she's helping me with the kids. So all that stuff helps. But yeah, for me, it's the memberships, because it helps me pull people in to my channel to teach them about their unalienable rights, duties, and obligations as a responsible American. So that was kind of you. So that's right, AJ. I want to help you guys understand your rights, because, being a lawyer is not, it's awesome. I'm not going to lie. It's a great feeling to know that I was able to do it. But most people hate lawyers. And, kind of pisses me off because I'm not that guy. But that's okay, because it just makes me want to try that much harder to be able to help you. So, it's just like I taught you guys earlier, Kazushi. So, because I'm getting ready to go get squared away. I'm going to work today, by the way. It's not a day off for me. But so Kazushi is the principle of balance, or off balance in Japanese. And what you want is to throw your opponent off balance. And again, at the beginning of this show, I shared with you, and I'll share it with you again, off balance. I see that Lane, and to a lesser degree, Reluctant Prophet, has thrown their opponent off balance. Now it's time for the throw. Oshigari, they got to figure out a way to throw this guy. And I think the starting point would be to get a finding from the Arizona Commission of Judicial, whatever it's called, that the judge was acting outside the course and scope of his judicial authority. And if he was, because again, I'm not licensed to practice law in Arizona, so I can only tell you based on what I think how it would go down in California or Texas. But I think that public discourse and discord would be the best way. So it's a two-pronged kazushi, all right? First prong is to get every newspaper, every local or outside newspaper, to get involved and talk about it, like they're doing with Carolina and Fort Worth. That's why Kruger got fired. I guarantee you, too much bad publicity. That's why Kruger got fired in the Carolina and Fort Worth case. So the next step is to get the Arizona Commission on Judicial Performance, or whatever it's called, involved. And as far as the class action goes, Mias, I'm not sure if there's enough class members with substantially similar enough claims, but perhaps. But anyways, guys, listen, I got to get to work. It was an honor and a privilege to be able to spend this last year with you guys and to watch Chili DeCastro get released from his false imprisonment and see him win his appeal, and to have all you guys as my friends. It's a true honor, and I'm blessed to have all of you. I'll talk to you.